Hey VC, what's up? It's me, yours truly. I am back to post a quick video here. This is going to be a quick video response for Alex, channel known as Alexspinsvinyl, his 200 subscribers contest. I've been meaning to jump on board the last couple days and do a response to this, and finally got a moment to actually sit down and pick out some stuff. So yeah, I wanted to just kind of jump on board and pay tribute to my boy Alex, and congratulations on the subs. Glad to be able to jump on board and do an entry. And so let me just kind of jump right into your questions. So his first question slash request was to show, I'm sorry, and I have the answers pulled up on the computer over there, so that's why I'm kind of looking like this. But two albums from different genres that are linked in some way. So there was a number of those that kind of came up. There was when I thought about, Steve Perry and you know, his song "Captured by the Moment." Within that song, he talks about Janis Joplin, he talks about Sam Cooke, he talks about Otis Redding, um, you know, he talks about the Beatles. So, in a lot of different connections just within that song. You also have Weezer. Was that, what's the name of that? Is that "This Is My Song" or something like that? It's been so long since I heard that track, but he talks about Van Halen and all different kind of stuff. But anyway, the one that, there's two more honorable mentions I have to say. Like I have to get off my chest. Another really good link: Public Enemy, "It Takes a Nation and Millions to Hold Us Back," and Slayer, "Rain and Blood." Those two albums definitely are extremely far apart, with being one of the greatest thrash albums of all time and one of the greatest hip hop albums of all time. But um, the guitar breakdown, if that's what you want to call it, in "Angel of Death" from Slayer is the exact note for note sample used in "She Watches Channel Zero" on Public Enemy's "It Takes a Nation and Millions to Hold Us Back." So I think that's a pretty cool link, not to mention the Rick Rubin thing. Um, and then one more with Anthrax, or with Public Enemy, is Anthrax and Public Enemy doing "Bring the Noise" together, which is kind of cool. So those were the ones I was kind of sifting through to actually come to my pick. And so what I decided to go with, which I thought was kind of a cool link, is you have this album by Sir Mix-a-Lot, Swass. The big hit off of this was "My Posse's on Broadway" back in the day. But there was a really cool track on here called "Iron Man." All right, and actually what I did was I pulled out the single. I have the 12-inch single for that too. So Sir Mix-a-Lot did "Iron Man," and of course the riff in that is the riff from Black Sabbath's "Iron Man." And since it was a, Iron Man hard metal riff, they actually brought in Metal Church to play it. So Metal Church, you can actually kind of see, where's it at? I think it's on this cover here. Yeah, kind of right off to the side there with the guitar in the background. Yeah, they made a cameo on that Sir Mix-a-Lot album to do the song "Iron Man." So kind of a three-way connection there. But really cool song. I haven't thought about that forever until this contest. So love that back in high school. But so that's my answer to question number one. Question number two is a band whose second album is better than their first. And this album is actually popping up twice already. You have Public Enemy with Yo Bum Rush the Show, which is a great album. But it doesn't make a difference how even good this first album would have been when your next album turns out to be one of the greatest hip hop albums ever made, which is "It Takes a Nation and Millions to Hold Us Back." And it's usually, that's a good question too, because it's usually kind of tricky. I know one of the things that Eddie Trunk always says is, the reason why a band's first album is so great typically is because they have their entire careers to do their first album. And then all of a sudden they have a year while they're on tour to come up with their second album. So, but yeah, Public Enemy, "It Takes a Nation of Millions," just a legendary rap slash hip hop album. And so with that being number two, hard not to pick that. Looking for the answers down here. They're over there. Or questions. Question number three, your favorite double album. Couple of those here too, and I have this one, which I don't have on vinyl yet, and I want to get it so bad. I really want to get a nice copy of this at some point. But Psychedelic Pill by Neil Young. Just kind of, and actually, I think on vinyl, I think this is a triple album. I think it's 2 CD, but I think it's a triple vinyl. But anyway, Psychedelic Pill by Neil Young. Another one of Neil's just fantastic works later in his career, which I personally think gets overlooked a little bit, but it's just, Neil kind of doing stuff back with that awesome kind of heavy psychedelic feel slash guitar tone. And my favorite track off of this would definitely be Ramada Inn. I think it's probably my favorite track. And it's like 10 minutes long or something like that. But I mean, Neil just does this awesome freaking, nothing insane, but it's just this cool, floaty riffing that he does for like 10 minutes. It's just freaking awesome. So I really, really can't wait to get that on vinyl at some point. So I'd say that's my favorite double album, or more than a single disc album, let's put it that way. Question number 4, to show an album you love from the 2000s. Pretty broad question there, so that was kind of tough. But I decided to go with this one because it's not one that I hear talked about a lot in the VC. This is Neon Indian. Eric Strana there. Really, really cool album. I mean, you can kind of file this if you're into the genre thing like I am in a couple of different ways. I choose to put it in my synth pop section because it's kind of the feel that I get from it. But it's just a really cool album, and it really does kind of have that youthful vibe to it. Very, very poppy, very synthish on some of the different elements. It'll mix in stuff that sounds a little reggae-ish, stuff that sounds a little bit electronic kind of, but it's really just kind of a mixture of a lot of different things. But it has grooves you can easily dive into and kind of find your spot in. But my 2 favorite songs off of this is a Polish Girl and Hex Girlfriend. Love those 2 tracks, probably especially Polish Girl. Again, kind of has electronic type thing going to it, but it also has kind of this reggae type of flow to it. But it's an upbeat synthy type of song. It's just really, really great track. So that's definitely a 2000s album that I really, really like. I did want to pull up The War on Drugs again because I feel like I talk about that album too much. But let's see. So the last question here, talk about 2 of your favorite movies. Just kind of jumping off the music thing, I guess. And so I do like a lot of different movies. I love my horror movies. I love my just everything. I love my comedies or dramas. Doesn't make a difference. A good movie is just a good movie to me. But my main love always goes back to my 80s comedies. I mean, that's just kind of the one place where I always tend to return to, even though I am a big fan of all the Paranormal Activities too. That is a kind of an honorable mention I want to put out there. So I decided maybe to talk about 2, maybe 3 movies that maybe aren't the big movies that were well known in the 80s. They weren't the Pretty in Pinks. They weren't the Breakfast Club, the Vacation, all that kind of stuff. So 2 or 3 of those would be, number 1, Rhinestone. I'm sure a few of you are probably familiar with this. Hopefully you are. Sylvester Stallone, Dolly Parton. Soundtrack is funny as heck. Love it to death. But this is one of those movies where it should have been so much bigger than it was from my standpoint. I mean, Sylvester Stallone was so freaking funny in this movie that and that's not something you usually associate with him as comedy, he may have movies where he makes remarks here and there that maybe kind of, whatever, but as far as just comedy from start to finish, he and Dolly Parton nail it in this movie. And simply put, just to give you an idea about the plot, he's a New York City cab driver. She sings in a country bar in New York, and she hates the guy that she works for, and they're always bickering at each other. And they have this thing once a week at this place called the Rhinestone where new singers get up there and try to perform. And if they can survive the crowd, they potentially could get a record contract. But it's kind of known where the crowd just always jumps on the new singers. So she bets her boss that she can turn anybody into a singer better than he can. And he's like, okay, well, let's go out and find somebody and we'll make this bet. And they end up kind of bumping into Sylvester Stallone, who's just a wacky New York City cab driver. So she takes him back down to Tennessee, where she's from, to try to teach him how to be country, sing country, and so he can make it through this one song. And it's just hilarious. Love that movie. So that's kind of one of my B-side 80s movies, if you will. Two others that I want to mention: Midnight Madness. That's another movie that I really, really love. That's almost a C-side 80s movie. But I think it was actually Michael J. Fox. I think it was his first movie ever. Just about these four teams playing this all-night game where they have to go to different places and find clues to get to the finish line and win. It just kind of turns into this. It's just a whole big cheesy 80s. Yeah, I love it. And then the last one I wanted to mention too, in terms of just kind of favorite movies, again, probably going to a B, maybe C-side movie here as well, is Breaking All the Rules. Okay, and not the 90s movie that Jamie Foxx was in. This is early 80s, about this guy that works at a theme park. It's the last day of summer before school starts. They go to the theme park. Somebody steals a diamond that they're supposed to raffle off, and it's just a whole stupid 80s theme park type of thing. And I used to watch that movie almost every single night. It was like my bedtime story back when I was in like junior high. But yeah, really cheesy, but love that movie to death. So those are the two or three, kind of my favorite movies I want to mention that aren't the typical kind of mainstream movies or whatever. But if you're a cheesy 80s fan, definitely make sure you go and check those out. But yeah, again, Alex, man, congratulations on the 200 subs. Glad I got a chance to finally jump on board. And as always, VC, let me know what you think, and we will talk to you soon. All right, take care, guys.